Hey, it's Liz at Book Learning. Welcome back. Today I'm going to review Margaret George's The Confessions of Young Nero. It promises to be the first in a series of historical fictions by Margaret George about the Emperor Nero. He was an emperor of Rome around the time of the establishing of Christianity, and he descends from Caesar's line. This particular book tells the story from his birth up until the burning of Rome period. And the way that she characterizes this is how Nero gets to be the person that history remembers him as. So, like I said, I don't really know a lot of this period, and my only exposure to this book, aside from Beacon Hill Books' review, was randomly on vacation. I was watching the History Channel, and there was an episode on Baiae, and Nero was a terrible person, according to that particular program. And Margaret George takes the complete opposite approach. In this book, The Confessions of Young Nero describes the series of events and the context in which Nero became the evil man that we know him to be now. And George argues that it's a misremembering of history, kind of manufactured by his political enemies once he was no longer in the picture. Instead, what we get is the story of a complex human developing over time, as well as a complex society developing during this time. So themes of art and love and power are all explored through this particular volume. And it's really a slow character study. It's a very deep character study. It's not quite a biography because as George mentions in at the end of the book and a little aside, there's not much positive that the historical record says about Nero. And if you read this book, you really kind of get a sense of, on one hand, the inevitability of Nero becoming a terrible, terrible man with a scheming snake of a mother like Agrippina and other relatives who are just always out for power. But at the same time, Nero makes decisions that continue him on this path to become, as it's characterized in the book, the third Nero. So we find three distinct characterizations of Nero in this book: a young innocent, a loving man who pursues art and culture, and an evil bastard. It's hard to describe this without giving away too much. But I loved that Margaret George emphasizes Nero's relationships with good people in his life. In particular, Silanus, his uncle, and Crispus, his stepfather, as well as some other characters in his life who were important figures in his development. His athletic trainer, his tutor, his music teacher, and his first love, Act. I don't know how to pronounce these names. And it's heartbreaking that they don't seem to be enough to save him from himself. And yet, Nero is all three characters at the same time. He is the innocent, he is the artist, he is the evil person. And so what we see throughout this book is just a battle, an internal battle, as he comes of age in this power-hungry world. And I'm so disappointed that this book was published this year, because it means the next book won't be published for a while. But it got me really interested in this period of history, this period of time. It shone a light on, once again, the historiography battles that happened. So comparing my first recent reintroduction to Nero, the Baiae program on the History Channel, to Margaret George's book. And they argue completely opposite perspectives on this historical figure. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I would heartily recommend it. It's a gripping read. It's a page turner, which you don't always get from historical fiction. But Margaret George does an amazing job of giving you just enough context if you're coming to this without any real understanding of the time period, but she really maintains the focus on the character. So it's a novel. It's not dry at all. It's wonderful. I'm so glad to have read a work by Margaret George. I think she's going to be an auto-buy author for me for quite a while, and Margaret George, if you're out there, please write the next one. Quickly. Alright, that's all I've got for today. Thanks for listening, and let me know what you think of this book if you've read it, or if you've read any other Margaret George books. Please let me know what I should pick up next. Thanks. Bye.